What is a beadlock and why do I want it? That's the two questions that I'm going to attempt to help you answer. So in order to answer that question, we just need to know how a tire works. And in order to figure that out, we can look at a tire without a rim. This is a 118 tire for RC crawlers, or technically this is a monster truck tire. But as you can see here, there's a small lip in here that we can see. And on normal full-size car tires, there is usually a wire, steel wire going through here. And this part is called the bead. So what a beadlock is doing is basically pinching this and locking the tire from moving. So that's the first question we've answered. What is a beadlock? A beadlock is a rim that locks down the tire from moving by pinching this bead. So this is called the bead of the tire. But a beadlock wheel has several different components, and most of them have 3. And when they are put together, they look like this. As you can see, this one is, it looks like a normal, fairly normal wheel, but it seems like it's flat on the top. And it's got screws. Either some of them have them here at the back, some of them can have them at the front, like this for example. It's got the bolts at the front, but that is one technique of making the wheel pinch. As you can hear, this one is a little bit loose, and it's the middle part that is this part. This one looks exactly like these 3. If you take the screws out, it's going to separate into 3 pieces. It's the back piece where you mount the bolts. It's the middle piece. And this one, when it comes to RC tires, you can usually upgrade. This is aluminum, but you can use a brass to add some weight or some other type of materials. And this is the front part, which is normally the shiny one, and this mounts to the ring. So what this is doing is basically you want to put these two together, you want to screw them in. If you look at the screw holes here, you see that you can put a screw in it like this, but that would make it a fairly normal car wheel, just in 2 pieces, because it's got the inner lip here and the outer lip here, but there's no lip in between, so it's a fairly normal part. But in order to have the locking of the beadlock, you have to put them like this. And then you see you have the first part here, like you just slide it in, and the second part to slide into the wheel, and then you tighten them down. And the technique here is that, as you can see, there is a small gap here, and that's where the tire goes. So the bead of the tire goes on either side here, and then you tighten them down with the bolts here in the holes and screw them down to make it lock on the wheel. So that's how a beadlock tire works. But why you would want it is a different question. And when it comes to RC cars, that depends on what you're doing. When it comes to real world cars, it's the same. It depends on what you're actually doing with it. Most road legal tires and wheels, they don't have beadlock because it's not necessary. But when you're actually putting pressure on them, like an off-road tire, for crawlers in this case, you're gonna put pressure on them, and sooner or later the tire is gonna pop off. This is a normal plastic wheel. As you can see, it has If I can get this off here, you see it has an outer lip and an inside lip here. The bead of this tire rests in between those, and that makes it not slide around. But if you put enough pressure on it, it's going to do what I just did with this tire. It's going to pop off. So that's why you basically want a beadlock tire. As you can see here, we have the tire almost fitted, but we have the bead here that's going to go in. So we just push that in, and now it's fitted. You can use plastic tires. It's all fine. It just depends on how hard you're going to push it. When you're going in side hills, it's going to squeeze the tire and pop it off. These tires are just model tires. They don't keep air, but if you would be having tires on a real car for off-roading, you would lose your air in the tire if this would happen. That's why you have the beadlocks. They lock down on it, and then you won't lose the air in the tire and your capabilities of actually continuing your run. But you always need beadlock tire for an RC crawler. That depends on what you do, as we said before. If you actually do competition crawling and you're actually putting a lot of stress on the tires when you're going sideways on a hill, or when you're pushing your car to do what you want it to do, then maybe you would need. But there's also a possibility to glue these tires to the plastic rim, and that's fine in many cases. There's a lot of wheels that come like that and recommend doing that, because a plastic tire is going to weigh less than an aluminium or even a brass, like my TRX has here in the back. That's a brass wheel, and that's one of the heaviest wheels that I have. This FMS SCX 24 comes with beadlocks, but they are plastic, so they are a little bit less heavy. So it all depends on what you want to do with it. And these are the original tires for the TRX 4M, and they are plastic and they work fine. If you just want to go out and trail run and do anything like that, you don't need the beadlocks. So it entirely depends on what you want to do. But most of the tires that we can find in this hobby, they tend to be beadlocks for crawlers. For RC drifting, for example, they are press fit. So you put a foam sticky tape on the inside of the wheel, and then you press the tire on, and that's normal enough. It won't pop off because there's so little friction on the RC, on the drifting tires, that it won't be popping off. So they don't really need any kind of beadlock at all. It's mostly crawlers that do. So should you spend a lot of money on beadlock wheels? That is entirely up to you and what you want to do with it. If you're just going to be trailing, then I wouldn't say you have to spend any extra on a beadlock tire if there's something you rather want to have on your car. Most of the tires are very cosmetic. It's much better to spend the money on the rubber. That matters a lot more. So, what is a beadlock tire and why do I want it? Hopefully we have answered both of those questions for you, and now you can make an informed decision on if you actually want to buy beadlock tires or if you want to buy plastic tires or any other kind. The biggest difference in tires, I would say, is the weight. Beadlock tires are either aluminium or brass. The brass weighs a lot more than the aluminium, and some of the wheels that you can find, like the stock wheels for the TRX 4M, they are plastic and they weigh a lot less than either of them. But there are also slight differences in how they work. If you are crawling in competitions and so on, I would recommend you to have beadlock tires so you don't have to end up in a situation where your tire pops off. But if you're just trailing or crawling around in your garden, hitting some obstacles, then you probably don't need beadlocks. But it could be a very nice cosmetic upgrade, and adding weight to it moves the weight lower, so you lower the center of gravity on the vehicle, which means that you can probably tackle more obstacles like that. So if you want them, it's entirely up to what you are actually going to do with it. And the best way to understand if you want to buy beadlocks for its functionality is to go out there and start driving around and understand when you get the tire to pop off like that, then you know you need beadlock tires if you want to do that again. So go out there, test it out, see what you feel like, and see what you need. And as an extra little bonus here, we can go through the steps of how to actually fit a beadlock wheel. So first of all, you have to push this ring into the wheel or the tire to have somewhere for the pieces to fit into so they can lock down on the bead. Push it in so you have the lip, the bead, go in between the inner ring and the outer pieces. And then you just lift up the tire on top so the tire is in between those two pieces. Make sure the fitment is good, and then you have to line up the holes for the bolts while also keeping track that you don't pinch the wheel or the tire between the two pieces. It's supposed to grip onto it, not pinch it. And then you start putting in the screws one by one, but don't start tightening them too much. Just make it grip a little bit, make sure it just grips down and starts tightening, and then you leave it there. Then you take the other one and you go in a star pattern or crisscross, just so you don't rip out the threads on the bolts. And as long as you keep going in this pattern and just tightening it down little by little every pass, then the tire is going to be mounted to the beadlocks. And little by little, you just go through it, putting all the screws in and then going across every time. And if you can see this, you see the first couple of screws I put in, they are already not even touching the heads anymore, so you can tighten them down until they touch, and then one rotation maybe, and then you go to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And this is how you do it for all of them. So it's a fairly easy process, and by doing this you won't damage anything. So if you've been afraid of even trying to do this because it seems complicated or anything, then you just keep going in a steady pattern and you'll get there. So don't be afraid of trying. And if you've come this far in the video, thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.